This meeting is now being recorded.
Okay, so we are now recording, and does everybody, can you see my screen now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
There's not much.
Yeah, there's not much there. I just wanted to make sure it was sharing. Okay, so welcome to the eCaST Users Group. My name is Kristen Lara. We're just going to go around the room really quickly here so that you know who is in the room today.
Nick Rose.
Emily Kinsella, Section Manager.
Chris McCracken. Angie Fellers-Lemire, Nurse Consultant. Ivy Hunt.
Cubu.
Alrighty, so you got a full house today of support, assistance, and guidance. So today what we are mostly going to go through are some new reports that are available in eCaST and just kind of a general overview of how to do kind of standard eCaST activities, what you should be watching out for on a weekly, monthly, and every other monthly basis. So I'm going to try, I can't see the bottom to, how do I want to, never mind, like share my full screen, but I guess I can't. I can do that. Okay, so here on the screen for you is it's a quick reference tool that we will send out, I think, in the next eConnect next week. It's just kind of a tool for you to be able to know at a glance what kind of activities you should be doing in eCaST to set yourself up for success. Some things we ask you to do more often than others. I'm going to zoom in because I know that your screen, it's a little harder to see than on my big screen. So I know you can't see the full page, but at least you can maybe read some of it. So we have put together this quick reference tool for you to use to know how to how often data entry is expected, how often you're expected to review certain reports or run certain reports. And we thought this was a good time to release this because now a number of reports are available in eCaST that weren't available previously. So I thought this was a good opportunity to just kind of go through the reports in terms of their relevance to your day-to-day activities or month-to-month activities as a quick overview. So was there a question? No. And it is *6 to mute and unmute yourselves. Please feel free to jump in and ask questions at any time during the call. So to go through the weekly line here first, as you probably know, you're supposed to be completing data entry within 30 days of the date each procedure is performed. And you should, on a week-to-week basis, be reviewing those caution flags on your eCaST homepage. The reason we do these two things is because it's really hard for you guys or for us to track your progress if the data in eCaST isn't up to date. And it's important to clear those caution flags or to be watching out for them. Some of them do indicate clinical follow-up is required, and so those errors can't be cleared and payment can't occur until you complete them. So I'm going to go into eCaST really quickly here and show you what I mean by caution flag if you have forgotten or it's not sounding familiar. And I'm not going to remember my password. No, I do. I do, actually. That's my test username. But I don't remember the password, so I'm going to cheat. And log myself in. Okay, so I'll log in as a local user for Test Health Department in training. So when I say caution flag, I mean these things down here. So clearing this list helps to make sure that all of your information is entered and up to date. If you have cases that have diagnostic follow-up required, that should make sense. So you should be waiting for somebody to come in for diagnostics. And if you're not, and I'm going to just type in diagnostic here to bring one of those up. If you see something here and you think it's, you're not planning for this lady, you're not planning to complete any more follow-up, you think she's finished, that's the time when you would want to contact either Nick or Angie to figure out where the disconnect is between what's reflected in eCaST and the clinical care that you have provided. There is now a way, this report menu is on the top right of the screen, so it'll default to showing you this billing snapshot. But if we click reports, we see the list of reports that are available. Some of these you've probably been running on a monthly basis, or somebody on your team has, such as the grant activity statement or the budget tracking report. But there are some new reports that are available to you. So one report that's available, that we just noticed today that it does have a bug in it, is the screening with errors report. This should list the exact same thing it is listed on your home page. It's just that I know some people would prefer to be able to print that list or export it. So I have to say I think that one of the benefits of the home page is that you're seeing up-to-date information, and as errors are cleared off or as they change, you're seeing that in the system dynamically. So this is available if you're, let's say, parsing the workout, or you want to check them off as you go down the list. The dates I would recommend is just the standard fiscal year parameters. It more or less will always pull the same information no matter what dates you enter. This is a new feature here, the Show PHI. And that's asking the system whether or not you want to see that protected health information. So if I say no, it's going to not display the client's name or their date of birth. If I say yes, it's going to show the client name and date of birth. So in all the reports that's available, and just it'll default to no and only change that to yes when you really need it. Which may be always and it may not, but we wanted to give you that option of being able to print the reports without the PHI. It'll always show that eCaST client ID, so you have a way of looking the client up. It's just, do you need the name on the report or not? So here it defaults to my agency. I see that I'm in Test Health Department, I believe. And then I see a list down here of all of the individual clinics that are available. I can click on one, I can hold down the shift button on my keyboard, and I can select multiple, okay? And now you can see there's multiple selected. And then I click Run Report. It does that sometimes where it gets upset. I think if you just select them again, and I need to tell that to our developer, I don't know why sometimes the first time it gets mad, almost like you forgot to select something. But if that happens to you and you're like, hey, I think I clicked one, just try it one more time and odds are it'll work. So it'll think for a little while, and then once it's finished thinking, up here on the top, we'll see an option for how to download. You can select any of these formats you want. However, I will tell you that it was designed for PDF. So if you select Excel, it'll come out in Excel, but it'll be an Excel version of a PDF where you have like extra rows, and it's just a little, it's not like a regular Excel table. So that's totally fine if you guys want to do that. That's why we make multiple formats available to you. Just know that it's designed for the PDF, so the layout is designed for you to scroll through in PDF. And so what's the bug right now is that right here it's not listing what the error is. So this client does have an error, but you can't tell what the error is. I'm thinking that should be resolved by tomorrow morning. But see here, we're just seeing a summary of exactly what is on that home page. It will always show you this procedure error line. Even if there isn't a procedure error, just know that if there's nothing underneath it, it doesn't have a procedure level error. That's just something about how the headers work. So this particular case, pending screening is not complete has been selected. So if you wanted to, you know, look up this client in your EHR or charts, if you wanted to look her up in eCaST, we would see her on the home page as well. So if I copy this and come back here, I'm going to close out of this. We should see her. Oh, I may have missed the close button. So see, here she is with the exact same error. So these two things are a reflection of one another. You're not seeing more or less information in one place. It's just two options to work through the same list. Just remember the one on the home page is a little bit more dynamic. because once you download that PDF, it's only as good as the time that you downloaded it. It's a snapshot. So use that as you want. I know a lot of you asked for that ability to print and download this list. And we will send out probably in the eConnect, just kind of official heads up that I think that report is fixed. As right now, it'll list everybody, but for some reason all the errors, the words aren't coming through for whatever reason. Does anybody have any questions on how to use that? I'm going to just open up the reference so that you can look through that again. Yes, Chris McCracken?
I have a question. Can you go back to eCaST?
Yes.
So, all those reports, wow. So, those aren't all WWC reports, are they?
No, the ones that say colorectal are definitely not WWC. And some of you may be saying, oh, I didn't know I had reports for another program that I participate in, like CCSP. And some of you may be thinking, I didn't know there was colorectal information in eCaST. So, use the reports that are relevant to you or related to you and your programs and your work. If you haven't heard about the colorectal reports yet, I would encourage you to get in touch with your CCSP staff person at the university. These also, some of them, like the screening errors, it's going to show you things for other programs as well. This one, clients referred for healthy behavior sessions, that's specific to the Wise Woman program, so you should be hearing from your Wise Woman data manager shortly if you haven't already on how to use that report.
So everyone sees everything?
Everyone does see this full list.
Okay.
And it's up to you to know which ones make sense for you to run. So screenings with errors makes sense to run. And then we're going to go through a couple of these other ones that you should be running on a regular basis.
We have a question.
Yes.
So on the dates that you run, does it matter, do you need to pick from the first of the month to the end of the month, or the 15th to the 15th, or?
It sort of depends on the report. For the screening errors report, honestly, it doesn't matter what dates you put. It'll probably return the same information. It'll return all your active cases with errors. We're going to go through actually in the monthly reports. Those are ones where, for the grant activity statement, that's the one where you always want to run it for the full month to be able to catch the date of the bill run, and I'll show you that in a quick second. That's probably the only one that's kind of not cranky, but you really have to know, what you're doing when you run that report to be able to get the right information out of it.
Kristen, with the screening errors report, what if you don't put dates in at all? Does it still let you run it?
I have no idea. So Angie asked, what if you don't put in any dates, what will it do? See, it does that thing where it does get upset with me, but when I click it again, it's fine. So we're going to run it. One thing to remember, it will always pop up here with that download option, even if there's no information resulting in the report. So we're also going to check that. Like, it may run, and we may think it has information, but we're going to see if in the PDF is there actual information. And this time you'll notice I put show no PHI. So same report, and it's just hidden the name and the date of birth. But the report is the same. I think I selected a different individual site this time, so it looks a little different. You'll see there's two messages this time because we're in test site D instead of site A. But that's a good question. So you don't even have to put in parameters for this one. I think I just need to remove those in general. But are there any other questions? Those are good ones. Okay. So now we're going to move to the monthly section. One thing that you want to run monthly, and this is a new report and something that you haven't had access to in eCaST before, is the breast and cervical case management report. And for those of you who maybe used old eCaST, this is the equivalent of reports 84 and 85, the follow-up reports. So let's go ahead and let's run that now so that you can see what's on it. and then we'll show you how to use it. Okay, so I'm going to WWC Cancer Screening Case Management. So the first thing we see is, one, we don't have any date parameters. This report is going to show you a list of cases that require active case management. So you can't put in parameters because it's going to show you everybody who needs case management or needs to be closed out in eCaST. It does have this show PHI or not. I'm going to do yes. You can run this report for breast, cervical, one or the other. So we could run an only see cervical, only see breast, see both. I'm holding down Shift or Control on my keyboard when I want to select multiple. So if I'm doing this, click breast, I have to hold down the Shift button to then click cervical as well. If you just click on each of them individually, it won't select them both. So that's the trick for selecting both, is to hold down Shift or Control. Again, we see it's defaulted me to the Test Health Department. I'm going to go ahead and click this Select All Clinics button. This is probably going to get upset at me. I'm going to do it again, and it works. So now it's processing. So it's going to show us PHI, it's going to show us breast and cervical, and it's going to show it for all 4 sites. If, for example, it only shows information for A, B, and D, that means that it did look through Site C, but there were no clients that needed case management. Okay, so if you run this for your agency and nothing comes out on your report, so long as you have both breast and cervical selected and you have all your sites selected, it means that you have no clients that need case management. So again, I'm going to go on this list and I'm going to select PDF, just because that is the cleanest version of the report. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I can barely see this. Okay, so this report shows a lot of information, and this is actually the report that Angie has been using if she occasionally calls you or emails you asking what the status of a particular client is. It's that she's been looking at this report and sees this client has been had an abnormal for 78 days, and the question is, why hasn't this client been closed out yet? Why hasn't follow-up occurred yet? So for this particular report, we see a complete list of all services provided on that screening that have been entered into eCaST. So for this client, since July, it's been open with a normal pelvic, a negative Pap test, and a positive HPV. And it's open in eCaST right now. So there are a couple of tips for how to use this report. One, I would recommend running it at least monthly and just incorporating this quality check into how you case manage clients. For many of you, I think we kind of assume or expect you have another case management process other than eCaST. So this is really just to make sure that you're dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's in terms of none of these clients falling through the cracks, and that everybody who appears on this list you expect to be there. This is only clients who have some sort of abnormal in eCaST. It's not your pending screenings. It's not a normal CBE and the lady's waiting for a mammogram. It's clients with some abnormal results in the system. So one thing that we kind of want to, as a general benchmark, let you know is that it's around that 45-day mark. So when this service age days hits around 45, that's when it kind of pops up on Angie's radar to make sure that there are notes in eCaST that show that this client hasn't fallen through the cracks. So for this particular client, I want to show you what that looks like really quickly. So I've double-clicked here. This is one way you can use the report. So I double-clicked here, and I just did Control-C to copy. I'm going to close out of here, and so I should see this client on this list down here. Okay, did the cursor pop up?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
It's
I'm
processing.
Oh, it didn't like the way I closed that out, I guess.
There you go. You have a cursor.
Okay. I did not wear my glasses today, and I could barely see the screen.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so I just pasted in that client ID up here. I could have searched for the client up here as well. I just thought this would be easier. It also shows it's really all your clients with this error, this additional diagnostic required. It's providing extra information on those clients via this report. That's all it's doing. So if we wanted to list, so for example, let's say that you run the report and it comes back with nobody, okay? You can also confirm that you have nobody by typing in diagnostics here. So if you type that in here and there's somebody, they should have appeared on that report. Maybe you ran that report wrong. So here I'm just going to click on this down arrow and I'm going to click additional diagnostics required to shoot me into the case. I don't know if I actually clicked on it or not. Okay. So I'm just going to show you after about 45 days, if you haven't already, I think that we would prefer if you maybe make a note or a comment in eCaST to let us know when you plan that the client will come back in. So let's say today is September 24th and this is open, saying for this one, Colpo is scheduled on 10/2/2014. That really helps us know that the client hasn't fallen through the cracks and future procedures are planned. So here we see no notes, right? So if I come in here really quickly and do that, say Colpo scheduled for 10/2/2014, and then I click save, more than likely EUG will now look at that, review it, and not give you a phone call or shoot you an email because she sees that the client is scheduled to come back in. So that's one way that you can use this report. I'm going to go back to it really quickly. So we've now made a note for this client. You'll see that this is sorted by greatest service age. So as I scroll down, the numbers get smaller. So here we're at 50, and this is all that we have for Site A, okay? Site C, and you see that there are these site-by-site headings. It starts at 44. That's it. Scroll down, and Site D has 29 and 22.
Will it sort each site? So each site will be top to bottom?
Yes, that is correct. Yes, some of the, so here we see that actually. So 29 here for Site D, and the bottom of the list for the site above it was 27. So it cites it by, or it's sorting it by service age within each site. Are there any questions about how to use this report? Good.
Star 6?
Oh yeah, star 6 if you're talking like I was earlier. Nobody's replying. So that's this top one. The bottom report that you do want to also run at least monthly is your grant activity statement and your budget tracking report. So those become available on or right around the 15th of each month. You should be used to running these at this point, or somebody at your agency is running them. Generally, you just want to provide this to somebody on your fiscal team so that they can make sure everybody that they expected to have paid is paid. And you have that PHI, no PHI option for these reports as well.
Now, you also, some of you also may have trouble with either of these reports. These reports are date sensitive. So we recommend that for each month, the date parameters should be from the first of the month to the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
What if you do that and you choose the wrong fiscal year? Is it going to blow up? Is it going to? It usually does, yes, blow up on you. So you want to do.
It's not going to work for us.
Yes. Yeah. Kristen's going to go in and show you for the report, that grant activity statement and the budget tracking report. You want to choose the most current fiscal year. Now, you can go back and look at 2014 if you wanted to look at a particular month in 2014, but you want to choose the most recent fiscal year, which is 2015. Your contract type, WWC, and start date would be September 1. And you can either type it in or click on that calendar to the 30th. Again, you have the option of showing PHI or no, and then running your report.
And you might want to quickly jot this down. I know a lot of you have been asking about when you're going to receive your checks for the end of FY14. You may have just received that, and now people are asking you, well, what is this associated with? This is the time of year that we get questions now that it's a while after we actually ran the report of how do I find this report in eCaST. So I want you to write down the parameters for how to find the mystery grant activity statement for the latest check you received. So 2014, you have to change the fiscal year to 2014. And I believe that the end of year statement was run or generated on 7/30/2014. So if we do that specifically, this is what generates your end of FY14 grant activity statement. So if your fiscal person comes to you in the next week or so and says, hey, I have this check from WWC and I don't know what it's associated with, it's not with either of the grant activity statements you gave me for the current fiscal year, try these parameters and see if the dollar amount matches up. More than likely it will. So I'm going to leave those on the screen for a minute so that you can jot them down. It's fiscal year 2014, contract type WWC, start and end dates of 7/30/2014. Okay. So moving on from monthly, I did just want to point out that the core indicator report, we are working on that for eCaST, but it's not available quite yet. If any of you were unaware of this, we do have a progress report that comes out from Chris and Ivy in November, March, and August that does show where you are with your core indicators. Oops, I zoomed in too much. So this top section, this is just a sample report. These are all of your core indicators and your numerator and denominator. So if, for example, this agency was far from standard here and you wanted to know what those clients were, just shoot an email to Chris or Ivy and say, hey, I'm curious about my progress report after you receive it. Can I have that list? And they'll work with the data team to get you that information. So this is where you go in the meantime to look at your core indicators that will at some point be available directly from within eCaST for you to use your own date parameters, but this is how you access it for now. Does anybody have any questions about this report? Chris or Ivy, who would they go to if they said, this report doesn't look familiar, I didn't realize that you were giving me my core indicators this way? Who would they contact at their agency to get to see this?
Their WWC coordinator.
Okay, so if this doesn't look familiar and you're the eCaST data entry staff or the eCaST coordinator, ask the person with that WWC coordinator role if you can have a copy of this. Maybe you didn't realize that it had all this clinical information on it. Okay. So the last thing, and you guys should definitely know that this is happening right now, is that in March and September we ask you that you participate in Datapalooza. So as you know, we're pulling out cases that don't meet the CDC clinical standards or those with errors, and we ask that you help us review those and correct them. I don't know if there were any, it sounds like most people have returned their
Yes.
sheets.
Mm-hmm. That is accurate. We have the majority of the sheets back in. They are looking good. The deadline is next Wednesday to have those sheets back in. I'm happy to report that my emails are down to double digits, thankfully. So if you have not heard from me yet, you most certainly will, either by close of business today or tomorrow. But so far, so good with Datapalooza. You guys have really jumped in and taken to it this time.
All right. And a shout out to some of you who got extra emails for me. I tried to take care of some of this Datapalooza cleanup on my own, but there were just some folks that I needed more information. So I appreciate those of you who have already responded to those emails in addition to your Datapalooza list. It's all related, but I couldn't take care of it, so thank you for helping me do that.
Awesome. I did remember there is one report that's not on here because you don't need to regularly run it, but I know a lot of you are interested in this report, and we use it internally. So I'm going to show you one other report that you may want to run. Every time I'm just not sure.
Processing.
Training.
Is So there is a cancer report that lists all of your cases with the diagnosed cancer and their status for that BCCP enrollment. So breast and cervical cancer is the name of the report, and this runs just like the others. The date parameter is based on final diagnosis date. So it's really what do you want to see. So some of you sometimes have annual reports where you want to see how many people in the last fiscal year or calendar year were diagnosed with a cancer. So we can do that. So if I do 1/1/2013 through 12/31/2013, we can do that. We could also look how many people have been diagnosed in the current fiscal year. If you wanted to double check, let's say we do that. Let's say if you want to double check that everybody has been enrolled into BCCP Medicaid. So we're going to do, if we were spot checking enrollment, we would probably do from the start of the fiscal year through today's date. I'm going to mark both breast and cervical, and I'm going to select all sites because cancers are pretty rare, and it's going to, of course, give me that error, and I'm going to select it again, and it'll be fine. Hold on a second. No, I can do it.
All guests have been muted.
Okay, sorry guys, I will unmute it in a minute. So that you can ask questions. But to go through the breast and cancer, cervical cancer report, I had just clicked run, so while we were fixing that issue, this bar up here popped up saying the report is ready for download. So I'm selecting PDF and I'm clicking export, and then I'm clicking on the PDF in the bottom. So I think I must have selected no PHI, and that's why you see, I'm going to zoom in so you can see this. You see that patient name and date of birth. You'll always see those columns when you select no PHI, it's just that they won't have anything in them. So in this case, it's the SIN-3, treatment was started, Medicaid information wasn't filled out for the SIN-3. So that's one thing that you would want to figure out. So I'm not clinical, but Angie, I think it should have been filled out for this case. So Angie runs these from time to time to make sure everything's looking good and clean. It's really hard for us sometimes if the data isn't entered within that 30-day period. There's only so much particularly this report can do to help you. So if you enter a cancer case from 3 months ago, all of a sudden it's going to appear here, but this report isn't going to help you to be able to know that you missed a BCCP case, for example. And that's why I think your internal processes more than this report are important, and this is making sure nothing fell through the cracks. So sometimes what AMG will do is run through this and just make sure everybody who has Medicaid eligible has been initiated and enrolled. You may or may not have seen these fields in eCaST, but they appear in that final diagnosis section for cancers. And our WWC staff fills them out as enrollment occurs. So that's where those come from. But you can run through this. So we have 2 that are on this test agencies list. But if you wanted to run it for your full calendar year, you can do that and count up how many were enrolled. I will show you, just for kicks, what this looks like if you download it in an Excel format. And you'll see what I mean by it's helpful, but it's also a little, it looks just like the PDF, but in Excel format, which is sometimes helpful and sometimes not. I don't know why it's upset right now. So that report is available to you. It's helpful, I think, in summarizing, but it's not one that you have to run regularly. So you see it does this thing where it literally does what was in the PDF but in Excel. So if you delete out all the extra rows, which I've done before, you can then get this Nina number of clients essentially. But okay, I'm gonna attempt to unmute you all and see if we still hear music.
All guests have been unmuted.
All right. Okay, so you guys have been unmuted now. Perfect, mute yourselves again. We are through the quick reference tool. I did, the last thing I wanted to mention here was the stuff that's at the bottom. One, the YouTube website for where to go for online training and technical assistance. But then our 2 live learning opportunities. So one you are on today, it's this eCaST users group. We're going to experiment with, actually, we've recorded this today, and we're going to try to post all of the eCaST user group recordings on the YouTube channel as well. So if you ever want to go back and reference or share it with somebody else on your team, you can do that. Or if you miss one, we're going to try to list them all there. The second opportunity is an opportunity to ask questions and share tips and techniques with other users, and that's on the first Wednesday of even-numbered months at 9:30 in the morning. That's led by Nick. And so I know there's a regular group of a handful of you guys that at least come every month. It is just an optional opportunity for you guys to hear Nick go through some kind of common questions about how to enter cases into eCaST and to learn from one another.
We'll also go over any new features that we've added to eCaST since the last TA webinar, and then go through any questions that you have in real time.
Yeah, so we recognize that, you know, everybody learns in different ways, so if you're one of those people that would like to talk through that and talk through it with a small group of people who like that learning style, that's available to you guys on the first Wednesday of even-numbered months. No RSVPing is required, right, Nick?
Correct.
You just go to this link up here, and this is the same as the one that you logged in today. It's just our eCaST Sensory Link room. So same login for both of these live learning opportunities. So those are available to you. Are there any questions about kind of the standard eCaST activities or training opportunities?
No.
Okay. One other thing I did want to mention, so I don't know how many of you will be interested in this, but one of the things we've been discussing internally is whether or not it's feasible to, for select agencies potentially, and by no means is this in any way mandatory down the road, but we know that many of you have EHRs and many of you are doing data entry in that EHR, and then you're also doing data entry into eCaST. And we've heard from you guys and and from other programs that that there is some interest there in exploring the opportunity to potentially pull that data from an EHR and automatically put it into eCaST. So rather than doing data entry in 2 places, in your EHR and in eCaST, is it feasible, is it possible to potentially just do that data entry into your electronic health record and then extract it from that electronic health record and submit it to the health department rather than doing that manual entry into eCaST? So I don't know for how many of you that thought sounds kind of exciting or interesting. Some of your organizations have already done this with the health department for programs like family planning. So if you have a family planning contract as well, maybe you're involved in that, maybe you're not, but that's one thing that's available for family planning as well, and it's been successful for that program. So we know that we have a lot of data requirements, and we're really interested in having a handful of organizations maybe start that conversation with us. So we're thinking of convening some sort of small work group. I'm thinking that initially it's maybe a monthly call for 3 months, 1 hour a month, so 3 hours of your time over the next 3 or so months, just to kind of discuss what information is available from your EHR, what barriers you see, what possibilities you see. And then potentially there is funding available for a couple of agencies to do kind of a more in-depth exploration. So not piloting full implementation of this, but maybe going through a field by field in eCaST, a list, and telling us what information is available in your EHR. That is not a volunteer activity. That's an activity we would pay for. So that's something that we'll also talk about more in depth during this work group, is kind of filling out whether or not any of your organizations would have time for or would be interested in helping us to explore field by field what is available, what are the barriers beyond that 3-hour voluntary commitment. So if that sounds of interest to you or anybody else in your organization, think about that and email me, or really anybody on the WWC team, whoever's email you have handy, that you'd be interested in what we would call like kind of a data extract or EHR extract work group. We'll also put a note in the eConnect for next week that comes out from WWC explaining this and soliciting organizations to volunteer 3 hours of your time over the next 3 months to just explore that concept and try to unearth what opportunities and barriers exist to potentially allowing some agencies to move away from manual data entry. So I don't know if there are any questions or thoughts about that. Certainly don't need to volunteer over the phone right now, but shoot us an email if you want more information or would like to participate. So it looks like we have about 15 more minutes. I don't know if there are any eCaST questions or issues or things that anybody would like to bring up, and we can go through those on the webinar.
I have a question.
Yes?
I didn't receive anything about the Datapalooza. Does that mean I don't need to do anything about that, or?
Good question. What is your agency?
Penrose Hospital.
My gut would be that, my sense would be that you're probably exempt.
Yeah, if you did not receive a Datapalooza sheet, it means that you do not have Datapalooza work to do this go-round.
Okay,
but I will double-check that just to be sure for you.
Okay.
And Nick is, if you haven't already, he's going to send out a reminder to agencies that he hasn't heard back from yet. So if for some reason it went in your spam box, we're going to send you another email today reminding you and giving you your list again. So either you'll hear from Nick today or you're exempt, and we'll confirm that on our end.
Okay. Last year I think it went to the WWC coordinator, and so I'm the eCaST coordinator, and so it's Dee Patterson at Penrose, and so I wonder if he has it. Just make sure that it came to me as well. I didn't see anything.
Yep, Dee, that was my mistake. Last year I sent it to the wrong coordinator, and this time I made sure to send it to both, as well as our internal folks here. So if you didn't receive anything from me, a very good bet that you don't have any Datapalooza work to do this time, but I'll double check and circle back with you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions? Okay. Well, then, I thank you so much for your time. Please stay on the line if I was not able to get your name earlier. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop recording, yes.